So apparently if we get beat by Newcastle and Arsenal, Lopetegui gets a chop as West Ham United manager. That's today's topic, but I've got a big problem. I've already recorded the video, went in to quickly edit it, but the audio is not good. Now I fixed it clearly, but I don't have time to re-record it. So if you stick around, you can put up with the dodgy audio, thank you very much. But if you can't, I completely understand. But I don't have time to redo it because we've got to get up to the maternity hospital for baby Gio. We've got to go check everything is hunky-dory. And because it's my job, because this is my work, I need the income. So consider it as opening up the shop with a leaky roof. There's a puddle in the middle of the shop floor, so be careful. However, if you don't want to come in because of the slip hazard, completely understand. Come back tomorrow, leaky roof will be fixed. Anyway, for those of you that do stick around, thank you very much, and I'll catch you in the comments. You've all seen the reports by now, which started with Jacob Steinberg, usually a really reliable journalist when it comes to West Ham news. But should West Ham get beat by Newcastle on Monday, then Arsenal next weekend, Lopetegui will be sacked. And I hope this news is true. That's what we're going to be discussing today. But if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. It's free. It's completely free. It takes about 2 seconds as well. It gives you all the videos into your subscription feed. And also please do drop a like on the video as well by clicking thumbs up, because it helps this video. So if people come onto YouTube today searching West Ham news, this video will be higher up the rankings thanks to you guys that do click that thumbs up. It's free, takes 2 seconds, and perks me up, and we could all do with a little pick me up today. It's wet and windy outside. However, I've just watched a half decent game of football between Leicester and Chelsea. Our, well, could be the first opponents of the new manager. That's what we're going to discuss, because there's 2 elements to this news report. Do you want it to be true? Do you believe it to be true? Quite often, different answers, of course, because we've been here before and we've heard this before with pretty much every manager under this current board at West Ham United. And at times under certain other managers like David Moyes and Sam Allardyce. I never believed it. I thought, you're not going to sack him. Let's be honest. You're just not going to sack him. You consider him to be a safe pair of hands, compensation, he ain't getting dismissed. However, as they have shown in the past with Pellegrini and Slaven Bilic, they are willing to sack a manager if needs must. So there's evidence that they will sack him. I understand why people will say, oh, you're not going to sack him, you've got to pay out, then I'm not going to do that. There's 2 examples in recent years which prove that's not the case. They will pay out if they have to. However, there's evidence in regards to another part of this story, which is that West Ham have held talks with a other manager, but we'll deal with that in the second part of the video. Back to why I want this to be true. I would have let him go during the international window. I'm trying to be calm and trying to take a step back from this because I'm aware I was anti-Lopetegui before he was hired. And with that self-awareness, I'm trying to think, maybe I'm just too harsh on him. When we get beat, maybe I'm too harsh on Lopetegui. And I don't want to come across as having an agenda against him. So when the international play, I thought, right, I hope we sack him, but I didn't want to make a song and dance about it for that reason. But I did think it was the right opportunity to change a manager, just like Man United have, but give the new manager a week, 2 weeks on the training ground. I appreciate a lot of the players are absent because they're away with their countries, but the entire defence is there. Wan-Bissaka, Tadibo, Kilman, Emerson, Fabianski, they're all at the training ground. Certain midfielders are there as well. Some of the attacking players are there too. So it's not like nobody's there. But we'd have given them enough time to have a look at West Ham so far this season, build a backroom staff if needs be, etc, etc. There's a lot of benefits to not having a game for a couple of weeks. You just got to use it wisely. Now we're entering the crunch period of the season, really. Games in just quick succession. And this is why I don't completely believe the reports that we'd sack him if we lose against Newcastle and Arsenal. Now, if we lose can be different, can't it? We could get beat 1-0 by Newcastle, 1-0 by Arsenal. Maybe we've played well and just been unlucky. They won't sack him after that. Of course, we could get a 4-0 hiding and 5-0 hiding. Chances are they might sack him after that one. So do I believe the report? Kind of. I think it depends on the game. I think it depends on the result. However, I would suggest at this point their intention would be to give him the following game, which is against Leicester City. Because on the face of it, judging a manager, deciding to sack a manager if they get beat by Newcastle at St James's Park and Arsenal seems a bit harsh. However, it's not that. It's not. He wouldn't lose his job because we got beat by Newcastle and Arsenal. He would lose his job because the performances thus far have been terrible. They've been absolutely terrible. There's not been many games where we've played well for 90 minutes. Ipswich Town, that's it. That's the only game I felt we played good from start to finish. And you have to take the opponents into consideration for that one. So it's the bigger picture. It's not just these two games that are going to define whether Lopetegui remains at West Ham. It's the whole lot so far from what we've seen. Because like I said, yes, he might have only had 11 Premier League games so far, 12 Premier League games so far. But he got the job back in May. It's nearly 7 months ago now. But he's been here for 6 months. That is a long, long time in football. So yes, a quarter of the season isn't. 6 months is. Same period of time. Just a different way. Depends on how you want to look at it. So do I believe the reports? Kind of. I think it depends on the actual result and the performances as such. But I'd imagine their intention is, given the Leicester City game, that might be the defining one. Do I want it to be true? Yes, I do. Now, while I would have dismissed him during the international break, what I do hope the club have been doing is, if this is true, it feels sort of decisive. Like they've decided, right, he's not doing great. And that's a lot of pride for David Sullivan to swallow, to put his hands up this early on in the season in regards to games played, to say, all right, I've maybe got this one wrong. It's going to cost me millions to make the change, but I might have to do that. And if they have done that, if they have decided that he's on thin ice, naturally they then got to start making plans for the scenario in which they have to dismiss Lopetegui and his backroom staff. Because under previous managers, and we go back to today's game is important, the one I've just watched, Chelsea-Leicester. Leicester's our game in 3 times, but under Pellegrini, Enzo Maresca, the Chelsea manager now, was in the backroom staff. And Mark Noble and other players really liked Enzo Maresca, because I remember when Pellegrini was under fire, a lot of the players were supposedly saying to David Sullivan, give this guy the job, promote this guy. And Sullivan obviously wasn't keen because he's part of the coaching team. But when you look at Pellegrini's coaching staff, there's no one really there that jumps out, but also you wouldn't want that. So they're going to have to either promote from within, from a deeper standpoint, which is perhaps Kevin Keane or Mark Noble himself for the short term, or get somebody else in. Now, while I pointed to there being evidence in some cases of sacking managers, there's also some managers that perhaps were fortunate not to be sacked by the board and were given time until their contract ran out. So while I can say, look, they did sack managers, people can come back at me and correctly say, look, there's also managers they didn't sack. That's fair. Both are correct. However, one thing I think I feel even more strongly about. I feel strongly that Lopetegui can get sacked. I've already given my reasons in various different other videos, but just to sum it up, he has no credit in the bank. Previous managers did. That's this my summary and keeping it short and sweet. One thing I feel David Sullivan always needs to have before he does sack a manager is the next guy lined up. And that's why I'm convinced we will not be paying we don't pay compensation for managers anyway. We've never done it at West Ham under David Sullivan. He's done it once, and that was at Birmingham City, and it was a small amount of money in the grand scheme of things. So we ain't going to be buying a manager out their contract. Whoever we bring in after Lopetegui, should we make the change, will currently be unemployed. So already the pool is restricted quite heavily. But what that does mean, it gives you some advantages. If you were to say, let's just say we were eyeing up Thomas Frank, right? This is hypothetical. We decided Thomas Frank might be the next guy. Bad example because he's got a clause in his contract, but West Ham would have to contact Brentford and say, how much is it? 9 million? Okay, let me think about this. There's barriers before you get to the manager and you have that talks, and by the time you get there, Lopetegui's aware that you're already discussing with other clubs about his position. The advantage you have with free agents is you can start those negotiations now, and it's kept hush-hush. I say kept hush-hush. In this day and age, it's difficult to do so. But we've done it in the past. The two managers I've just mentioned in regards to who got sacked by Sullivan, both times David Moyes was lined up to come in and replace them immediately. They'd already contacted David Moyes and got that job sorted. We tried to do it under Avram Grant and Martin O'Neill and massively ballsed it up. I am convinced if Lopetegui is going to get sacked, the club will already know who they're going to go get. and they might have already contacted them in order to see if they're willing to come, what the contract situation is, etc., etc. Those early stage talks would have begun. If the report is true, which is lose the next two and you're gone, I strongly believe the club will have already spoken to at least the agents of these managers, putting the feelers out there, just seeing what's what. And that leads us on to the other part of the report. Now, there's 4 names in particular being banded around to potentially replace Lopetegui. I'm not going to go into them in this video. I'll do it next week. If we beat Newcastle, I won't, because we will have won. We'll park it. If we lose, we'll discuss it, because it becomes more likely. However, the reports singled out one man in particular, and it suggested that we've already had negotiations with Edin Terzic. You all know about this guy now. Was at West Ham under Sullivan, went to Dortmund, was technical director, became interim manager, then he took a backward seat, then he became the actual manager, took them to Champions League final, yada yada yada. Currently unemployed, and there was reports when he was being linked to Roma a couple of weeks ago now, before Claudio Ranieri took the job. He was in England, apparently. Now, A, we don't know if that's true, and B, we don't know why he was there. He could have a house in England. Could be visiting friends, family. Maybe he was, I don't know, Manchester Christmas market, for all we know. But also, he could be over here trying to get a job. He's an out-of-work manager. Why would he not be doing that? And I think he would be a very easy manager for West Ham to be in touch with, because of David Sullivan and also because of Tim Steidten. Both of them will have contacts that can get in touch with Edin Terzic pretty easily and quickly if they wanted to. You would imagine West Ham would be a very appealing club for him as well. It's a big club, one that he will be relatively familiar with. It's not the same club he left. But he will know people and vice versa. They will be able to work it out, and he will know Mark Noble pretty well from his time at West Ham too. So Sullivan will be able to get in touch with him, Tim Steidten, Mark Noble. There'll be a lot of ways of having negotiations with Terzic, which is under the radar type stuff here. Do I want him, Terzic? I want him more than Pellegrini. I want him more than Lopetegui. I wouldn't have had him in the summer. I wouldn't have had Terzic in the summer, because I'm not keen on his football. I'm unsure on him as well. And I just felt in the summer we were in a good position. We didn't need to have... We didn't need to gamble on a manager. I thought we could have hired a really good manager, and we've blown that now. That is completely different. That opportunity is gone. The situation we're in now, especially if we sat Lopetegui after 2 defeats, we're now further down the table. We're now possibly in the relegation zone, just outside the relegation zone. We're not in a great place at this point. The pool of managers available to West Ham, willing to come to West Ham, has reduced quite drastically. So those that we could maybe have got in the summer, that would have moved during the summer, that would have come to West Ham thinking, you know what, they've just finished 9th in the Premier League, they've got 150 million to spend. That's a very attractive proposition to most managers. Now, you've got no money to spend in January, mate. The players we've brought in, some have worked out. That 25 million striker, we don't know what's wrong with him. We're in a relegation battle. Do you wanna come join us? The managers available have decreased drastically. So while I wouldn't have took Terzic in the summer, because I felt like we had a really good opportunity to bring in a top manager, we've blown that. Now, if we do sack Lopetegui, I think it's a case of who's available and what can we get. And I'm not quite anyone but Lopetegui, because I still wouldn't take Rafa Benitez. I can't think of a situation in which I would say Rafa Benitez is the man that I want at West Ham. Unless it's if I wanted to get relegated, which I do not. Could we get relegated in the most painful way possible, please? Then I might say, oh yeah, I'd have a bit of Rafa Benitez at West Ham. So I'm not quite anyone but Lopetegui. But I am some of the managers I personally would have dismissed in the summer and said no thank you. I'm more open to them joining us now. So Terzic, I believe the rumours that we're speaking to Terzic more than I believe the rumours that Lopetegui will get sacked if we lose to Newcastle and Arsenal. I appreciate they go hand in hand a little bit, but I just think the club would be incredibly... Maybe the club would be a bit naive to continue with Lopetegui post 2 defeats. I think the club would be incredibly stupid if they haven't considered alternatives to Lopetegui at this point. I believe they will have done that, and like I said, I believe they will have possibly put feelers out there, and it has to be available managers. There's not loads around that would tick the boxes, but I do think Terzic is one of them. And if you go back to the summer, we go back to what we believe is a list of requirements from David Sullivan, which is free, Premier League experience, yada yada. Some of the names we're being linked to don't fit that criteria. Terzic kind of does. The Premier League bit's not there, but he's West Ham experienced. Slaven Bilic didn't have the Premier League experience, but he had the West Ham experience. That was enough for David Sullivan. So I do think that would be okay. I think that would fly with him. Those filters that Sullivan have, I still think will be applicable. And I still think he picks the next manager, not Tim Steidten. I think it'll be someone that has to be able to work with Tim Steidten. And I think Terzic might fit that bill as well. I think he's almost like the manager that is suiting both Sullivan and Steidten. And this is just guesswork, isn't it? But that's what this is. It's a fan channel. It's about opinions, predictions. Speaking of predictions, actually. Yeah, well, I was going to say I'm not going to promote Patreon. I will promote Patreon very quickly. We've got a prediction game for every single West Ham game. The patrons go on, they guess the correct score, and they guess the first goal scorer of the game. They get it right. We have one overall winner. The winner's going to a bowl, pick out one winner. Those who got it right but didn't win over get a small prize, but the winner gets whatever prize is allocated to their tier. It's signed goods, signed captain's armbands, signed shirts, signed books, signed posters, whatever. The higher the tier, the bigger the prize. Coming into this game, everybody's predicting 4-0 Newcastle, 3. Nobody fancies West Ham on Monday. There's 1 or 2 West Ham to win and Bowen to score. I don't know whether they believe that or whether they're just thinking, well, everyone's going for, I'll go for West Ham just in case, because then I'll be the only winner. Anyway, in regards to promoting Patreon, we've got a promotion on for the rest of November. If you join as an addict, which is the top tier, you'll get the first month half price. So usually it's £10 plus VAT. So it'll come down to £5 plus VAT. So it's £6 in total. We like transparency. We don't like to say £5 and you go there and go, hang on a minute, £6. VAT, £6 all in for the first month. That'll get you now up until a month from now in December. There's a lot of games, which means a lot of prediction competitions, a lot of content. So this is possibly the best time to join Patreon in terms of content. Bang for your buck and all that. Anyway, patreon.com/HammersChat. You will need a code. It's in the description below and it's in the pinned comments. So click that you want to join as an addict, put the code in, you'll get half price. But that's my thoughts on the situation, really. Do I believe they will sack Lopetegui if we get beat by Newcastle and Arsenal? Depends how we've played and what the actual result was. I think, like I said, lose 1-0 in both games or we're a bit unlucky. I think he gets the Leicester one. Get hiding in both games, I think they'll sack him. So I kind of believe that. Talking to Terzic, yeah, I believe that quite a lot, actually. I really do believe that one. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be back later on today after the Spurs-Man City game. I'm looking forward to that one. Hopefully it'll be a good one. I think, prediction, randomly, I think Man City's going to whoop them. 4-0 maybe. No Van de Ven, no Romero. They're going to be cutting knife through butter at the heart of that Spurs. A high line with Davies playing left centre back. I think City are going to smash them. Hopefully they do. But I'll be back tomorrow. But get involved in the comments. Drop a like on the video. Sky News Hammers Chat. Links below if you want to join Patreon with the code. I'll catch you in a bit.